can run an event on any budget. It just depends on how fancy you want it to be. This is the advice of an entrepreneur with 30 years of experience in the events industry and 21 of those running her own events business. Hello and welcome to Season 8 of the Womenpreneur Asia podcast, and I'm your host, Krista Gun. My mission is to uncover the stories and strategies of Asian women entrepreneurs in Asia to help you and inspire you as you navigate your own business journey. This episode is brought to you by my company, Redbox Studio. One of our key offerings is an entrepreneur game and program where you can learn to leverage entrepreneurial thinking. If you are interested in this strategy game and program, check out bigtimergame.com. That's bigtimergame.com. Today's episode is with a Singaporean entrepreneur, Annie Chan. Annie is the founder and principal trainer of Redbox Events Private Limited. As an experienced designer, adjunct lecturer, and trainer, she has extensive experience in creating, planning, and organizing events. She knows all the ways to glam up an event and ensure the show runs smoothly so that her clients can make a distinct and positive impression all around. Unlike most entrepreneurs, Annie had a roster of paying clients the day she started. And she also landed herself a $1 million project awarded by the Singapore government, where she had to organize 500 events in a year. Sounds crazy, right? But we'll definitely get into her story as you listen to today's episode. In this episode, Annie and I discuss her 30 years in the events management business, where she shares some really great insider tips and strategies that you don't want to miss. She also shares why she wants to educate more corporate people about events organizing and planning, her regional work with sustainability projects, and what sustainability means from an events planner perspective and how challenging it is. And now onwards to today's episode. Hello, Annie. Welcome to Womenpreneur Asia. It's been quite hard trying to pin you down and get you for the podcast, but I'm glad you are here to share with us your story today.
Well, thank you for the patience. I know we have been crisscrossing our time frame and our dates, but I think yes, finally we managed to get this pinned down, and my voice is still not fully recovered. But I thought that we need to get this going, and I think as an entrepreneur, things has to move, and as long as I'm healthy enough, I'm strong enough, I think that I should still come on and get this recorded.
Annie, please tell us, where are you today physically?
I'm in Singapore. I'm based in Singapore, where I'm born and been raised here and been here all my life.
Annie, the interesting thing about this interview today is Annie has a company that has the same name, literally has the same name, right? As my company. So my company is called Redbox Studio, and Annie, yours, the name of your company?
It's called Redbox Events.
Wow, Redbox means Redbox, right?
Yes, indeed.
So when I first met Annie, I got her business card and I was like, wow, first time ever I'm meeting someone who has the same company name, except that hers is events and ours is studio. But what a lovely coincidence. Or maybe it's not a coincidence. So that's the reason why we are here today. So Annie, what does your company do?
As the name says, Redbox Events. So our main focus is actually we provide a one-stop solution for our client in events, management and operations. So once we get the job, we will work closely with the client to deliver the event to the most effective and efficient way so that the audience enjoy themselves and the client, feel that it's worth spending the kind of money with us.
What kind of events do you normally organize?
I've done most events except Family Day and Dinner Nuts. So most events would mean I've done like corporate product launch, I've done award ceremony, I've done conferences, and on and off I do a little bit of exhibition for some selected clients. Yeah.
And was that something that you wanted to do when you first started your business?
The thing is that I just started in public relations. That was my very first job. Fresh out from Polytechnic, I was introduced to my very first boss. And she was it was very funny, she was looking for a staff. And at that time, the office was located at a place that's not exactly very convenient. And all her staff couldn't last. So when I was introduced to her, when I called her to arrange for an interview, the first question she asked me was, Annie, can you please tell me how long do you take to come to the office? So I said, okay, minusing the waiting time, just the bus ride itself is 10 minutes. Then she said, okay, come in and see me. So that was how I got the job. Okay, so it was in public relations. That's where I learned all the public relations skill. And then, as you know, in public relations, we do events like press conference and all that. And so that's how I got into doing events, running events, fundraising events and all that. And I had a chance to go into mainstream advertising, but I didn't quite like it. Right, so I went back to do events, and yeah, so I've been doing events, like you can say, for most of my life.
And how has that been for you, being in events? Because being in events, I think of a personality that's very outgoing, very much on the go all the time, and doing things fast, because events, they can't wait for you, right? People have to get things done. So how does that fit into your personality, or is your personality fit for that kind of business?
The very first job I wanted to go, I studied business management, right? So I wanted to go into actually travel. Because I thought that, wow, travel industry is so fun, right? I mean, you get to travel, you get to, go to every different parts of the world. But my very first job got me into public relations, and it was something different. So I thought, okay, why not? I just give it a try. And I guess it helps that my very first boss she was very, how do I call it? She was very engaging. She literally taught me the final tips on how to run public relations event, how to do public relations media management and all that. And I guess it kind of like just rubs onto me, and the whole learning was there. So I would say that it's because of, I think, her influence that got me started into that industry. I did that for about a good close to 10 years, as in events. And then there was, of course, serious burnout, right? Because we were doing such long hours and all that. So I left. I went into financial planning for a year. I enjoyed the relaxing time. I just go and have coffee with clients. I just go and hang out with people. But I realized that I didn't quite enjoy the work. Right? While I believe in financial planning, but it doesn't drive me to sell. So after a year, I actually went back to the industry. Went back to events industry.
Did you go back to your previous employer?
No, I didn't. I was introduced to another company, so I was there so that was probably close to 1998, I think. Then I went back to the industry. I worked for, I think, 2 other companies before the last company that I was with dropped us the bombshell to say that, we are going to focus on sound, lights and video, okay? Because they had invested a lot of money to do that, and told us that they're going to shut down the events department, or rather shut down the events company. So at that point, me and my colleague, right, 2 of us were like, what? So we said, okay, well, then we're just chit-chatting about what we're going to do and all that. And when our bosses talk to us and say, hey, do you want us to introduce to you potential jobs and all that? So 2 of us, just out of fun, we just say, nah, we're not going to look for a job. We're just going to start our own events company. And our bosses just say, are you serious? If you're serious, then take all the clients. So it was literally like a transfer from company A to Red Box Events. Because we were the one that was servicing the client anyway, right? So it's like, it's a matter of like, so the client will still be dealing with me and her, but just that now the company name has changed. That was as simple as it was. So my entry into my own business was very, very simple, right? So simple is good, but simple is also no good at some point of the time.
I like to unpack that. Simple is good, but simple is no good at some point of the time, right? That's a very, very interesting thing that you said there. But we can get back into that later. But I also know that because of that, you said that your first project was $1 million project.
Yes. Okay, so as I've shared, right, my very first job was introduced actually by a relative to my first boss. And incidentally, all the rest of my jobs that I went into were all through recommendation. I've never secured a job through a proper job interview. So initially I was kind of like, I felt a little bit inadequate, right? It's like my friends said, we went through 2 rounds of interview, finally secured the job and all that. And it was a point in time that I felt like I'm so inadequate, right? Until a friend asked me, if you're inadequate, then how do you get a job? So I said, introduction. I said all my jobs in the last few years were all through introduction. All right, so my friend kind of like scolded me and said, "Hey, do you know that anybody would rather be in that position? You think who wants to send a CV in and be waiting for the HR to call and then for interview 1, interview 2, and then finally either say yes or no? You say you are like parachuted in, and then yet you can complain, say that you are inadequate." All right, so similarly to the very first project, I kind of suspected, although it was never exactly proven, I kind of suspected that it's because of the relationship I built over the years. Somebody that I knew probably put in a good word for me. That's why, although the company was only 3 months old, we managed to secure that $1 million project.
That must have been such a boost to the company and as well as to the people running the company, right?
We had, from what I know, right, we have 17 contender.
So you managed to secure that. What project was it?
Okay, it's a government project to run singles dating event for singles. So it was a massive project for 2 years, and we had a quota of 500 events in 1 year.
How do you 500 events in 1 year?
Yeah, when there's only 365 days, right?
Yeah. How many events you pack in a day?
We had to do like one and a half event a day, but we don't touch Mondays. So after a while, we work out a formula, right? We don't touch Monday because it's also a rest day for my team for us to do all the necessary paperwork. So on weekday nights, we usually only have one event, at most 2 events, right? Because we figure that after work, most people would not want to have a very hefty event. So usually we do like dinner events and all that. But our Saturday and Sundays are packed. We can run like 7-8 events on a Saturday and Sunday because we need to fulfill 42 events in a month, right? So Saturday and Sunday we will be full steam with 7 to 8 events, all sorts of events. You name them, we probably have done them before. We only had a very small team. I only had like 4 of us full time, and the rest of the helpers are all like our friends, our close friends. I even have to rope in my sister and my brother-in-law to help sometimes. So very much we were working with like true relationships for them to come and help us.
That's amazing because it's no joke actually running so many events, and you have 42
Yes.
a month.
Yes, and this is on top of our corporate client. So because remember we took over the client from my previous company, right? So we still had to manage the corporate client part. And this is where like I mentioned, right? So it was easy for us because we started with some clients already and then we got this job. But it was not as easy because I think we were so fixed in managing what we see in front, we overlooked that we need to have sustainability. All right, so what happened was with that $1 million account, I was servicing the account and my colleague was doing the back end, and then she was responsible for business development. But the thing is, we kind of overlooked the fact that because we felt that, okay, since I secured the $1 million account, I should be the face of it, right? Because then the client wants to see me. But we overlooked that I have more experience out there doing business development than her, right? So while she was trying her best to do business development, many a time, sometimes she also struggled with it. So that's why when we were more stabilized, then when we reflect back, then we realized that we were not looking at it from a very business perspective. Being like a new business owner where we are suddenly landed with so many things to do, we were just running the show. We forgot to run the business.
And also run the business based on your strengths.
Yeah, correct. So because she was like, okay, I don't want to see the client, I do back-end support. I said, sure, no problem, Then after that, we realized that it was not the right way to do it. Right? Or maybe I shouldn't say it's not the right way. I think it's not the most effective way to do that.
And then in your case, now that you look back on it, what would have been a more effective way of doing it?
Because it's a 2-year project, right? I figured that perhaps maybe for the first year, I would take care. All right. And then once the things is stabilized, she can run it, or I could let the 2 staff manage most of it. All right. And then I can go and focus more on the business development part. Right? Because we still had clients that were still giving us business, but we needed more so that when the project ends, we know we have the sustainability. Yeah.
Which meant that you didn't have to worry that where's the next project coming in, or where's the next event going to come in.
We were literally running 24/7, right? That we will get burned out. And when it burns out means that maybe by the end of 2 years, the staff choose to leave because, 24/7, right? So of course we have staff leaving, and then after that we have to start hiring and all that. So yeah, so it was an oversight and an overlook from my end in that perspective.
Is it common in businesses doing events that burnout is one of those things that you have to look out for?
Yes, pretty much, especially when we have like projects or events that's back to back, right? Because you only have so much time to rest, all right? And then sometimes when event setup is like late in the night, right? You forgo your rest, your proper rest and all that. So yes, it can suffer the burnout. So it has to come a point in time that we have to manage whether do we want so much business or do we need a rest? Being a new company, when clients coming to you, you tend to say, hey, okay, we'll try and get this done and so on and so forth. Yeah.
So over the years, what have you realized about the events business?
I've come to realize that, and it's also one of the reasons why I pivoted to do training, because I realized that through my connection and through my interaction with the events people or even the venue people, it's that some of them are clueless as to what we truly need when we're running an event. So for example, we could be asking the client for certain information, or we're asking the venue to provide us certain information. They're like, what do you need to know? Why do you need to know this now? They don't realize that we need it is because we need to find out, we need to see whether the content or the ideas that the client wants, can it fit into the location, or rather whether the time frame is suitable for you to have this kind of arrangement or this kind of program. So some client will just say, it's okay, just put it in, later we'll decide. But because I've been doing it for years, right? You one look, you know that it's not going to work that way. Okay, so that was how I kind of felt that, maybe the industry needs a little bit more education to let them know that when we events people ask for certain things, it's not asking for the fun of it. Why would I want to ask for so many things, right? Why would I want to bear the burden of knowing so many things when if I don't need it? Clearly, we need to know, right? Therefore, we can come up with a program or the logistic plan that is most efficient and most effective for the client. Yes.
So that made you think of it like, maybe I should start educating them.
Yeah, so I had a chance. So happened I had a chance then somebody recommended me to one of the polytechnic focusing on events planning. I went and that's how I got started in the training space.
So now is training a big chunk of your business, or are you still also running simultaneously with the events?
I started with a polytechnic, but along the years, I've actually managed to come up with my own events training program, more from foundational and understanding that, those who are already in the industry, there's no way they're going to spend time going to take a diploma. So my 2-day course will allow them to at least have that basic foundation on knowing how to be more effective in running their events. All right, so that's what I'm doing. But at the same time, I'm also doing training for some other institution on a part-time basis. And yes, I still run 1 or 2 events on and off for client, but those projects are mainly out of Singapore.
Interesting that you run projects out of Singapore instead of in Singapore.
Correct. Yeah. So those projects are mainly on sustainability conferences.
Ooh, okay, we can get into that. In a way that you have actually had a nice seamless pivot, I would say, from running events, from getting all your clients, and then now slowly going into teaching and training.
Yep.
And being an educator, basically. You're a teacher.
Yes. And interestingly, that was like, in the primary school, right, when teacher asks you, what you want to be? We all say we want to be a teacher, right? Right, because
and now you are.
Yeah. So I'm like, one big circle and back to being an educator, yeah.
And do you enjoy it?
Yeah, pretty much so. Of course, sometimes learners can really get you like frustrated, like, hey, we're trying to teach you something here, and then you are like questioning like what we are doing for you and all that. Yeah. So but yeah, pretty much. And at the time I said, I guess last time when I was a student, I wasn't also the best student, right?
So you mostly teach, I guess, you'll be teaching industry people or people who want to learn how to organize events better.
The chicken egg thing is industry people want to come and learn, but as I do understand that their schedule is so tight, so sometimes it's so hard for them to even spare like 2 days. So I would have to deal with that, right? Then, but I also market myself to like marketing people, salespeople, or even like HR practitioner, because why? Some of them, or even like secretaries and administrators, because sometimes they do need to run simple events internally, either for the staff, or like if they're your secretary or your administrator, you may need to help your bosses put together some CEO lunches and all that. To some people, they may say, oh, what's so difficult to put together a CEO lunch? Yeah, it's not difficult for sure, but would you want to be a better secretary that can think more ahead for your client or for your bosses? Or do you want to just be an ordinary secretary, pick up the phone to your regular restaurant and say, hey, I want to book a table for 10? Or would you want to be a bit more involved, right, by maybe finding out like, does any one of them have any special dietary arrangements, they need certain things and all that, by connecting with the fellow secretaries and find out, and then recommend it to your boss and say, boss, I've spoken to the secretary of these people, so I'm recommending this particular restaurant versus our usual restaurant. Right? So you make yourself different. So it's either you want to be an ordinary secretary that just do the work, or you want to be something different or someone different by making even a simple CEO lunch be more interesting and more effective for your boss.
That's fascinating, because most people would never think of that, right? Most people think like, my boss asked me to organize something, so I'll just put together something because that's not part of my job scope. But it's by the way, you're asked to do it, therefore you do it. But that's really interesting.
Correct. Yeah. Or they will say, oh, my boss likes Chinese food, we'll just go Chinese food. Or my boss likes this restaurant, we'll just go this restaurant. So yeah, your boss likes it, but the people coming to the restaurant or coming for the meeting may not totally enjoy it. Right? Then what are you going to do next? Right? So yes, you took care of your boss, no problem. I mean, he's paying your salary. Fair enough, you take care of him. But if you want the rest of the CEO to connect even better with your CEO and letting them think that, wow, my CEO actually thought about them, all right, took their diet into consideration, wouldn't you think you're actually helping your CEO actually one level up? But not everybody will think that way.
So mostly when you are organizing your training or your classes, what do they come in with? Like kind of expectation that they have coming into any chance class? And how did they feel at the end of the 2 days after they learned everything?
Some of them felt that they had too much to digest. So I'm like, isn't that good? I only charge you like 2 days and then you got more than 2 days worth. So usually I will tell them that, even you have already some events knowledge, it's good to come, because I will show you the 4 steps on doing events. And then I also have my 6 steps on how do you actually design an actual event. Like what do you look out for first, and how do you move from I call it the 6 A's of events design, how you move from the first A till the last A, right? And making sure that you try to have this tighten so that, the whole experience for your guests or for your audience will be heightened. Because I always tell the learners, right? I say when you run an event, it's not about you. Okay, when you run an event, it is always about the audience who's coming for the show. It is also not about your client. Of course, they are paying you, you need to take care of them, right? But ultimately, the whole experience must be checked by the audience themselves. If the audience don't like it, right, you can bring them to the best location, they still won't like it, they will still not want to return the next time. But if you bring them to even an ordinary place, but the experience is like out of the world, right? Then to them it's different, right? Then they will say, hey, this client, or rather this company, the event is very interesting, and if they continue to support this client of mine, then of course I will get the business. So I always tell my learners, when you run events, it cannot be about you, right? It has to be about the audience who's coming for the show.
Oh, good tip. So since we are talking about tips now, so do you have any more tips to make it a flawless event?
For example, right, when you want to design an event, the very first thing you need to know is that what is the event for? Who's the event for? Right? If let's say you're telling me it's for the youngsters, then you must also understand the mindset. What does youngsters want? Okay, so let's say now you're organizing a forum for youngsters. What is the time span that youngsters can stay focused in listening to someone? You know that maybe their time span is shorter. So which means that if you're going to put a plenary speaker there, you're going to speak for the next 30, 40 minutes, you're going to lose them, right? You're going to lose them flat out. So you may say, oh, but I really need to have a plenary speaker. Then yes, then maybe you're going to get a plenary speaker who is more engaging, who's able to break his 30, 40 minutes into pockets of activities. Like I talk for 10 minutes and say, okay, now everybody, let's do this together. Right? Then you talk for another 10 minutes, you do something together. If you're going to stand there and just deliver, I'm very sure you start seeing people going toilet lah, take coffee, take tea break. Yeah, because you can't hold them. All right. And then, but if let's say now you're talking about, your target audience is professionals, they're coming to learn a skill set, then yes, very likely 30 minutes you can hold their attention because they want to come and listen to this expert speaker that's telling them some information, right? So the very first thing is please understand who's the audience. And then I will get learners say, oh, but what if it's a mixed audience? Right? So I say, okay, I say mixed audience, then chances are this could be a public event. Right? If it's a corporate event, chances of a mixed audience is not as high. Even if they've been mixing from different tier of let's say hierarchy, but they are from the same industry, right? So likelihood they also want to learn from the industry expert. So you are still quite safe. I said, but if you tell me it's really mixed, that there's children, there's parents, there's grandparents and all that, then there's a very good chance that this is probably a public event. So then if you know it's a public event, then you have to understand that when it's public event, what does it mean? It means that, maybe they want to reach out to many people. And when you reach out to many people, then you mean that you need to have activities that can engage with all of them. You probably will not want to have like a lot of talks because nobody's going to sit and listen. You probably may have some area that you have some simple talks like 15, 20 minutes. You must have some areas that you engage, maybe the grandparents, maybe some area to engage with the children and the mates. And then the parents can go and do something else. So you need to know the profile of your audience. Then from there, you can then scope your entire activity to suit what the audience is there for.
Great tips, because it's the audience, right? The audience that is the main consideration when you're
Correct.
Really thinking
Correct.
of doing an event.
Correct. Then from there, then you understand. So of course, some client will come to you and say, I'm doing a product launch. Okay. Then we have to first find out who are you trying to reach out to. Are you doing this product launch to the media? Right, so you do a product launch to a media, it's different, right? Media wants different story. If you say I'm doing a product launch to your top tier client, then you already know who's your top tier client. What is your intention, right? Do you want them to put down an order at the moment your product launch ends? Usually we'll try and find out what is and also what is the purpose of the event, right? Some people don't know one, especially I've got experience, right? Like when it comes towards the year end, whereby they still have marketing budget haven't spent, and they know that if they don't spend it, right, the next year they ask for the same budget and they're not going to get it. So they just come to you and say, I need to run the event. I say, okay, what you want to do? What's the purpose? I just need to spend money. Yeah, huh? You just want to spend money? So we will then have to tell them, okay, you want to spend money, okay, how much do you have? Then sometimes we're going to do a bit of reverse engineer, okay, for your, let's say 50,000, why not we do a roadshow? Okay, why don't we create a bit of awareness, a bit of rah-rah towards the end of the year? Maybe you can do some, special Christmas promotion, to push out some products and all that. So sometimes we're going to do the reverse engineer. They say they have this amount of money, okay, so we'll do the reverse engineer to help them to spend that money. At the end of the day, they have to still know what is the purpose of the event.
But that's a good problem to have though for any. Right?
Yeah. Correct. Then we just take
I just need to spend the money. So whatever, you just create whatever it is that you need to create for us, right? Just now what you were saying about the purpose of the event and all that. Has there been any interesting event that you've had to create on behalf of your client that was both challenging but at the same time also very interesting?
This was some time back. This was for Singapore National Park. Alright, so as you know, Singapore, we have different parks, and some parks are designated for certain types of events. So I can't remember the year itself, but it was some time back. It was at Fort Canning. So National Park wanted to promote Fort Canning, and Fort Canning is situated at some sort like a heritage area, right? So what we did was we actually created a series of heritage festival for National Park. So the very first one was kicked off by having a festival that we showcased about 14 different ethnicities in Singapore. So we have your different, we have 2 or 3 local dialect group. We have the Indian group, we have the Malay, we have also Eurasian, we have different category of Indian ethnicity. I still remember we even had a representative from Nepal and Middle East. So it was a weekend event where we showcased, we got them to bring their product to showcase, and we managed to allow them to sell. So we even have the Hainanese people, and they said, oh, can we bring our Hainanese chicken rice. We're like, sure, but don't bring too many because it's Fort Canning, right? And then we even have the Peranakan people. So on top of it, we also got them to showcase their culture, as in either through a performance or through a talk and so on. So I remember the Peranakan guy was talking about, I think, the kabaya, all right? And then we have another Indian group. They came and give a demonstration showcase of their wedding. That was specially created for National Park itself.
When you're talking about that event, I'm just thinking at top of my mind, you're creating the event, but is it also your responsibility to draw in the crowds, or is that a totally different function for a group of people?
For that case, we had to draw the crowd. We had to do our own publicity to draw in the crowd, but because it's under NParks, right? So NParks also did their own internal to publicize, to draw people to the event itself. So in that particular case, yes, we had to help to attract the visitors to the event itself. But for most of the other events, like corporate events and all that, the client would have their own database.
So I guess if you're working with corporate clients, it'll be a lot more easier because they have their own people to email to or to send out information to, right? Yeah. Public events is a bit kind of tricky because you have to make sure that it's two sides you have to pull in, right? One side is the probably sponsors, advertisers. One side is the public.
Yes. We also had to help to bring some sponsors in, all right, to help to cover the cost of the event itself.
What would you say would be the most unique thing about your events business?
How do I put it? I guess for me is my focus has always been more on the operation side, all right? So I don't do that much own event. I mean, the festival event was technically my own event, but of course with the blessing of National Park. So a lot of my client basically on operations, and again, a lot of my client was from referral cases. I only have maybe one or two clients that somehow friend introduced, say, hey, they are looking for client for events provider. Maybe you can submit your CV in and all that. But other than that, I think most of my clients are through referrals.
Is it common in the industry?
Pretty much, but I never really actively go and pitch for jobs sometimes, because sometimes when you look at the scope, right, you will know that they are expecting a lot, but in terms of the price point, they are not willing to pay. So I reached a point whereby I tell myself, if it's not worth my effort, all right, then I'd rather not do it. Because especially when you look at the scope of the work, you already know there's a lot of things that's needed from you. And if it's not worth my waking up to do it for you, then I'd rather not do it, because I don't want to shortchange them and then end up I get upset myself that, why am I charging so little and so on and so forth. So yeah, so now I guess I've reached the point where I told myself, if it's not worth me to wake up and run the show for you, then I'll just politely say, no, I'm not available.
Oh, you can tell them you come and sit into my class. I'll teach you how to do it.
Yeah. So of course I won't tell them I don't do your job, right? I'll just say, can you give me the date? So then I'll tell them, okay, actually, let me check, I'll come back to you. Then I'll politely write back to them and say, I'm so sorry, I have another event near that, so my manpower is strapped, I cannot do it. Yeah, even some they say, yeah, it's okay, our event very small, whatever. Then I'll just say, I say, no, I say it's not a matter of your event is small or big, but I don't like to stretch my manpower, and then instead of delivering one good show, I end up delivering two mediocre shows. I said I'd rather not, because it's not fair. Yeah, but the bottom line is I don't want your job now.
That's a nice and polite way of saying it, which is true. I mean, sometimes in business, sometimes we have to say a nice polite no, right? Because some people are really not suitable as clients.
Correct. And you know that sometimes when through conversation, you already know that they're going to be like a 24/7 client. The moment you sign on the dotted line, they're going to call you every day, how is this start? Honey, how is this going? So you just know, right? So and I told myself already, when we run events, right, I don't need you to be bugging me, because we know what needs to be done. All right, but if you cannot even trust me to know that this is going to be done this way, then it's okay. You can go and find another vendor that's okay for you to be calling them every other day. So I still remember I learned this was when I was training at the Polytechnic, because the Polytechnic schedule are quite fixed. So when they call and say, Annie, can you come and meet me, let's say on the particular day? And I'll say, sorry, that day is my training day. I said, I finish class at 4. I can see you maybe at 5 o'clock. So in a way, that's also like my little test on them, right? So when they say, yeah, sure, no problem. So I'll go and meet them. Then after that, when during the conversation, then they know that, okay, let's say I'm training 3 days a week, which means that my days of meeting them on those dates are taken away, right? If you want me to meet me on those days, it can only be after 5, right? But if you want to meet me on other days, I've got no class, it's fine, right? I got a whole day available. And it's from there, I will already suss them out. Some of them will say, actually, no problem. Once the job is given to you, you just talk to us when you need to talk to us. Okay, don't come and bother us. So okay, so such client, I may be still open. But I will have some who say, then how? If I need to meet you, then how? It's like short of me telling you that you mean you don't understand when it's a school calendar, it's a school calendar. What do you mean by how? There's no how. You just need to see me only at 5, right? Or you see me the next day where I got no class. Right? So in this kind of case, I will not say anything. I say, I'm so sorry, these are my available dates. I say, polytechnic dates are given, and I cannot be disappearing. Like I say, like in school. Then I will throw the thing back. I say the same thing that if your children is attending school, you also won't like it if the teachers suddenly don't show up for school. Right? Then I will leave it there. And then after that, I'll just say, anyway, let me go back and check. The dates you tell me sounds very familiar. I may have an event ongoing. Then after that, I'll go back 2 days later, I'll email and say, I'm so sorry, I've got event.
I love it. I love that technique. I must use it for myself one of these days.
Yeah, because sometimes they're like they're only looking at their perspective, right? Then they're like, why? Like so you cannot like leave earlier like from class. Literally you feel like telling them, say, hello.
You want the teacher to play truant, is it?
Yeah, it's like hello. It's like don't ask me this kind of question that like make yourself look kind of silly, right? I mean, imagine you send your child to school and then the teacher say, oh, okay, today I got to go for a meeting. Class ends at 12 instead of 2 o'clock. It doesn't work that way, right? Of course, student will be happy, oh, no class. But we all know it doesn't work that way. It doesn't matter where you're from, right?
Yeah, and you're also accountable to the principal, to the people you're working with, right? So it's not just about jumping
right. So I will just leave it that way, and then I will know already, okay, I don't think I want to have this type of person as a client. Because if you can be so unreasonable in that sense, all right, then I already anticipate that you can be unreasonable where you can be unreasonable. So it's okay. I don't need your job.
I like your point because I think a lot of times entrepreneurs, when they first start their business, any client comes in and any client is accepted, right? Every client is accepted, not any client, every client is accepted. Yep. But I guess as we get more and more experience in our business, we start to see, there's actually a few different types of clients out there. And some clients, or some prospects, I really call them clients, some prospects are really not worth the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exactly.
They try to micromanage you, they try to bug you all the time, or they try to demand more of your time, whereas they are not willing to pay for the service.
Exactly.
Of the time.
Exactly. So I always tell my learners, right? I mean, whether is it my events learner or my other learners from other courses and all that, I always tell them, I say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you must know your time. You must know your own value. I say, I'm not saying that you put yourself in that so high a level that people can't reach you, all right? And you start losing client in that sense. I say, you must know. Sometimes the value you give to a client, it comes with a price point, all right? And I say, for example, like I've got 30 years of events management knowledge, right? It definitely comes with a price. I can help you solve the problem. It's not because, I'm able to solve it. It's because I've got so many years of experience. I've gone through so many different cases of events. So I will know how to solve that problem for you, right? So therefore, I'm charging this price because of that, not because of anything else. You can go and find somebody who will charge you cheaper, but whether they can help you deliver the job with the most effective effort, then, you have to try. So nowadays, I tell myself, no, it's okay. You can carry on and give it to another vendor. I remember there was this client once before. I was doing for them for at least 6-7 years, like back to back. I mean consecutively, right? Then after that, they had a change of manager. So then the manager came and said, so give me the budget, everything. So I quote. Then after told me that another vendor was giving them better deals and was giving a lot more things, blah blah blah. So then asked me whether can I match. Then I look at the price, I'm like, no. Because I was very upfront, I told them first. I said, firstly, your budget for the last 5 years have never increased. But what you need has always been increasing. Okay, I say, I think I see you as a regular partner. If there's no cost on my end, all right, I will help you, no problem. I said, but if there's a cost I have to incur, I don't charge you. Okay, so in the end, she see that I wasn't willing to budge, and then she said, oh, then maybe I could give them a try. I said, carry on, then go ahead. I said, go ahead, let them try, no problem. Okay, and then after that, I realized something. Closer, like few months into the project, right? Sometimes she will just text me for no reason. She's like, hey Annie, how are you? I said, okay, I said, I'm good, yeah. And then she'll start asking some question. I feel like saying, hello, do you think I'm dumb or I'm stupid, right? I know the question is related to the event. So she asked, I just politely, I say, hey, you know that time we did this, right? What happened? So I will tell her, I say, I think like that. I said, I can't remember. But I'll still give her like maybe 50% of what I know it is. Okay, I won't give her 100%. So that it happens that every few weeks it will happen one time. So finally, like about a month into the event, right, or 6 weeks into the event, she called me again. This time around, she was very upfront. She said, hey Annie, I need some help. So I said, yeah, what happened? I said, what is it you need? So she mentioned, said that the event company was kind of like messing things up and all that. So I didn't give chance with it at the time. Because at the time she asked me to meet her face to face for coffee. So I didn't give chance with it. I literally gave it to her in a nice manner. I say, you think I didn't know that you're having problem? I said the last few calls that you've been making to me and asking me all those information, I already know that they're messing it up already. Then she kept quiet, She said, so obvious. Then I told her, I said, I'm running your show for the last how many years? Of course I know. You can ask me such question. It means that the events company didn't know. All right? I said, so what help you need? So she kind of like wanted me to come in to help, like save the day. So I told her, I said, this will be my fee. All right? So my fee was, like, let's say my fee, I think I increased it by about another 50% or something like that. Then she said, huh? It's more than your original quote. She said, oh, we are just 6 feet away. I thought, you'll be lesser. I said, you thought wrong. I said, because I'm supposed to come in and pick up the mess that they've done. All right? And I said, I don't even know what mess they created. So I say, do you think I want to risk it? I'm giving you this rate is because it is my expertise that you're paying for. It is not just my time really. So I say, you can decide, that's my fee. You can go and talk to your management. But I put it in a very nice manner for her. I say, much as I'd like to help you, I say, but I think, to come in and pack up the mess of another company is not the easiest. All right? If I'm willing to come in, then, I have to make sure that I'm okay I know exactly what has gone wrong and I can actually help you to deal with the problem. Yeah, so of course in the end, I know they got no budget one. So I also didn't want to say no to her. So if I say no to her straight away, then she will say I don't want to help her. So I told her, I said, I cannot charge you anything less than that. She didn't get me to do it, which is fine. All right. But she still invited me to the event. She said, hey, come, we got extra seat, you come for the event. I said, okay, so I went. I know some of the people. Then I bumped into the hotel banquet guy. Then the banquet guy so cute, and he kind of asked me, hey, how come this year I never do for them? I say, they say my budget too high, low. Then he said, hey, why they so silly one? Save a little bit, then the whole show so messy, the event people also don't know what they're talking, blah, blah, blah. So I also know already, ma. Then after that, then I met the AV people. I still remember, I think they bought the idea from the event company was because they were proposing those like panoramic screen, okay? But they don't realize that those screen, you must synchronize it very nicely, then it will be very, very nice. Because these are the good old days of whereby there's no LED yet. But they were so rushed of time that they didn't synchronize properly. I still remember, right, I was standing next to the cameraman and we were talking to him. Then suddenly the MC was talking, and the MC was walking, and then she paused at the particular space on the stage. And then she was faceless, on the screen. So I look at the camera guy and nudge him. I said, what is going on there? Then she didn't say much, right? So then, because lucky thing, the lady paused only very briefly, then she walked off. So I think, how could such thing happen? Then the cameraman said, never synchronize properly, lor. So you see, when you don't synchronize properly and the thing like overlap, right? It means that the part of the person's face or body can get meshed together, so you become faceless. So I say, okay, you got no time to synchronize. I say, but you could mark your stage, right? For example, when you realize that such thing is happening when the person stands at a certain position and the person goes faceless, I think you could easily just go on your stage and mark a big red X. Nobody sees, but only whoever's on stage. I think you can mark it down and say that. please don't stand there. Right? When you stand there, you face the audience, on screen you have no face. Because what happened when I was talking to the camera guy, the client came towards me. Then I look at her, I'm like, really? I gave her the kind of face, and she's like, oh, you saw? I said, of course I saw. So then she also said, oh, they didn't have enough time to synchronize and rehearsal. Then I told her, I said, they could have marked the stage, right? Then she said, what do you mean? I said, they could have marked the stage like with red crosses, said, don't stand there. I said, the stage is only so big, one. I said, just mark and say, do not stand here. Then she, oh yeah, huh? And that was when I also must rub it in a bit. I said, yeah, that's between an effective event manager and an event manager that doesn't know nuts.
That's a good comeback. That's a good one.
Then she's like, you're very bad at you. Then after I said, I don't think so, Lord. I say, I'm telling you the truth, but if the person is mindful enough, they will know. That's mark on the stage. All right. I mean, you put a big red cross, who's good? And if you tell the artist or the MC, you say, don't stand there, because I can demonstrate for you. You stand, I show you. I say, you tell me who will go and stand there. Nobody will stand there already. I said, and that's not the worst. What if your minister doesn't know? What if the person who's guiding your minister on stage didn't realize and go and make the minister stand there? I said, how bad it's going to look or not?
So there's a lot of actually potential embarrassing things that could happen if the event is not run properly or managed properly.
Of course. Yes.
And if you have VIPs, even worse, right? Yeah, VIPs is like embarrassing.
Correct. So, and of course, all your partners that you bring in to run your event, run your show, it must be somebody that you work very closely with. Over the years, I've actually managed to build a pool of my support vendors that I know that if I give them the job to do, I can sleep at night. I don't have to worry. Yeah, so of course, went through a lot of pain also using some that is not the most appropriate, that created more headache for me rather than more success for me. But we learned it the hard way. So some of this learning curve, of course, involved in dollars and cents. Like I say, no, I'm not going to pay you for this, right? Because you messed up and all that. So you have no choice. I mean, you cannot pinpoint and say, oh, it's my cameraman who didn't take the photo. To them, I don't care, right? They see them as part of you. So of course, I also have the painful time whereby, cases like that happen, and then you have to deal with it, and then have to just bear with the loss. That's why I always tell my learners, I say, when you want to be in this line, you have to slowly build your contact. I say the contact, like my contact didn't build over time. It didn't happen just overnight. It happens over the many, many years, right? As I run my events, I find out whether these are my first tier, these are always my go-to vendors. Then if they're not available, then I'll have my second level and then the last level. But I'm very thankful so far. Most of my first tier are always there, that they're able to support. And when I say their first tier, it also means things like, when I come to payment terms, like if I needed more days to pay, they will have no issue. Because right from the start, when I run my own business, I always believe, right, if it's 30 days, it's 30 days. Even if my client has not paid me, all right, I will make sure that I would still clear them, right? Or if not, I will tell them in advance. I say, hey, this client is 45 days, so can you give me 45 days? That means I will kind of negotiate with them first. And then if let's say the client pays me before the time frame, even if let's say it hasn't reached their payment term, right, I will still pay them. So even let's say they give me 30 days, right? But my client has really happened to pay me much earlier, I will release the payment. All right, last time my partner have ever asked, hey, why? I can wait later, lor. Why need to pay straight away? I say, look, the money has to go out anyway. You want to keep this money for what? All right, I say you use this money now, then when the time comes 30 days, you still have to find the money to pay. All right, I say if other money can wait, then you just clear them off first. So that's why I think it's with this practice, right? When it comes time whereby I really, really need help, I really need maybe 60 days, they have no problem. They'll tell me, sometimes they'll tell me in Mandarin, Annie, 我不怕你跑. It's like they say, I'm not afraid that you disappear, I know you will pay. These are cases I think it helps that, my own, the way of me running business, in a way has helped me when the time comes that I needed help. So it's two ways.
That's also a really good practice, because it also shows that you sincerely want to work with these people who work with you, right? And you don't want to hold anything back. You want to make sure that when you get the money, they get the money too. It's not like you get the money, you hang on to it, and then wait for the next 30 days or 60 days to pay them.
Yeah, because to me, is that the money is coming in, the money already came in, it's meant to be out to these people. So why do I keep it for? But I mean, to keep it for another 1 week, what does it help me? Some interest, like in a few dollars, but what's the point? I pay them, they're happy, that case closed, right? So I never believe in like holding this kind of payment just for the sake of holding the payment, right? And I got this one particular vendor. I will ask him. Let's say I have an event coming up. I'll ask him. I say, hey, can you give me a code? Then he said, what do you need? Then I'll list down my specs, right? Then but usually I will roughly have an idea of how much it will cost, lah. Then he will always tell me, how much you want to give me? Then I'm like, wow. I say, this kind of deal very good. I said, zero can, no? Then he said, hey, don't like that, lah. I also need to eat. I said, then don't give me this kind of question, how much I want to give you. Then he said, Aya, we are like sister, brother, so I know you wouldn't like cheat me, ma. I said, no. I said, you give me your price, okay? Then usually you'll give me a certain price. And over the years, I found out in the market that actually whatever price he give me is always way below what is actually the money that he will charge his other client. Then after that, he will say, I think I last life don't owe you one. I don't think it's last life. I think it's the last few life.
That's a really, really good story.
Then sometimes he with event over already, then he also never invoice me. Then I tell him, I say, you haven't sent me your invoice. You don't want to get paid, huh? Then I haven't sent you. I say, no. Then okay. Then he'll quickly send. Then he say, when are you going to pay? I say, you forget to send invoice, but now you chase me to pay. You wait, I'll tell you. But then of course, usually once the client, I say, I can't pay, I'll pay you. So pretty much sometimes it's like, it goes a long way, to build that kind of relationship, right? Yeah.
And I think that is very important, especially for people in service businesses, right?
Correct.
I wanted to talk about a little bit about your sustainability projects. You mentioned that earlier. What are those projects?
That project for a client, basically, I've been helping her for the last 10 years. ESG, environment sustainability is one big thing. What I would do for the clients that actually the proprietary content belongs to the client, as in the program. So I will go there, we have some in Singapore, but we also move around in other countries. That the next one coming up is actually in Vietnam. So I will go there. We'll actually depending, it's 3 to 4 or 5 days event there. So it's a mixture of keynote speaker. And then there's a segment of it whereby the youth, this is mainly more for youth or community leaders, whereby they will then come and present their sustainability solution. So let's say now the event is in Vietnam, most of the participants will be from Vietnam, the young people in Vietnam. So they may come and talk about water, cleaning up water or food waste and it's climate change and all that. So they come and present their solution to a panel of judges. And then from there, they will judge them. And then the winners will get to win some prizes. Then on top of it, depending on the time frame, sometimes we will also have what we call the public outreach, whereby we'll bring the youth out there to do some sort of outreach to talk to the public as to the importance of environment sustainability and all that.
So it's keeping you busy.
In a way, so there's one program that's for the youth, we have one program that's for the community leaders. So these are like 2 programs. And for the community leaders, sometimes we also have a small component of exhibition for the green businesses. Like people in the green business, will encourage them to come and to take a booth and then to promote their green business and all that.
And we did mention this, talking about sustainability. I think earlier, before we even got into recording, we talked about sustainability practices in event management.
Okay, I will tell you honestly, in events management, right, sustainability is a very dirty word. Okay, while we know that it is important for us to practice sustainability, but it is not the easiest. Reasons is because, right, for example, let's say we just use food and beverage as one example, right? We always say let's not waste food. There are people who are hungry, they don't get food, so try not to waste food. But imagine if, let's say now the event is for 300 people. We can cater for about maybe 270, 280 people, right? Okay, because we know that not everybody eats as much, so it can balance off. And this is also based on the fact that we have 300 guests, maybe attrition of 10-20%. So yeah, we're quite safe with an order of about 230 to 280 people. Let's say it's buffet. But then you never know, right? You may have more attrition. Lesser people show up. So imagine you only have 250 people who really finally showed up. You still have wasted 30 portions. In Singapore nowadays, since about a good 10 years ago, we already have introduced the safety of eating. Once the food is served, within 4 hours, it must be cleared out, right? And so we no longer can say, hey, can we pack home? Can we pack and give to our supplier? No, they can't. the hotel will make us sign indemnity. And some hotels are so strict, they'll say, no, strictly no, cannot tapao. Alright, so basically the food will go to waste. Like last time, we can still say, hey, can we just pack and give it to our vendor, right? They will say no, like the people who are coming down to tear down the show, right? We say, can we just pack and give them? Last time can, now cannot. Okay, so that's really one. And then if you under cater, it looks so bad on you, right? It's as if you cannot afford to feed me, all right? And especially if let's say it's a paid event, all the more you cannot not have enough food. Right, so it's always chicken and egg. How do you handle? And even we say, okay, if it's a conference event, why not we ask the participant, do you want a physical file, or you're okay that we give you soft copy that you can download? You will have people who say, oh, it's okay, we'll have our download because I don't want to waste, I don't want to carry a file. Then when they show up at the event, they realize that, wow, the file's so nice there, come in the bag there. And then if they say they want, I mean, of course, we can politely say, oh, sorry, Crystal, you indicated that you want a soft copy, so I may not have a copy for you right now. So if the person is understanding the person, it's fine. But what the person says, but I didn't know it's so nice, how I really like it. I didn't have to pay for it, what? What can you say? So we still need to have standby at least like few. For people like that, we have to still politely give. Then, but similarly, if let's say those who ask for soft copy never wanted it, then you have the spare one sitting there, nobody claim. So so the only way we can do is really to minimize the waste. We cannot totally eradicate the waste one. It's just not possible. So that's why we always encourage client, right? That if you really, really want to do sustainability where food is concerned, if you can afford it, if you don't have too big a crowd, then go with plated dinner, plated meals. Because plated you can count If let's say you order 300 people, but you know your guests only got 250, you can tell them, please plate 250. The other 50 I come back and claim another day. Right? So you've got to work it out with the restaurant that the restaurant will allow you to come back and eat the meal. Right? But you cannot drag for too long. Usually they'll tell you, within 3 days or at max 1 week, can you please come back and claim? Because they have to record down. And also because the ingredient has been bought. Right? They also don't want to keep the ingredient for too long because then it won't be fresh anymore. Right? Or if not something, they tell you, okay, we cannot keep for 3 days. Later on, we will pack it properly for you. When before the end of the day, we'll cook everything. You pack and you go. So it become a packed food. Then we distribute to our volunteers or helper Yeah. So then they bring that back. So we just have to see how, and all these things really matter of working with your client. I will give your client, I will give the vendor to see that, to let them see that, how can we all work together to cut down the wastage. Because sometimes you can cut down on, let's say, the food component, but then your other component like your backdrop those cannot cut So we'll tell them, please use LED wall. With LED wall, you don't build any structure, you just put up the wall. But you have some people coming down and tell you, LED wall consume a lot of energy. So you will never be able to meet everything at synchronize everything. It's not possible.
So it must be quite tough, right? Trying to be sustainable.
Yeah, so we'll do our best. Last time when we first started with sustainability, client would say, what if I print this on recycled paper? We said, can. Normal paper, let's say $500. Recycled paper, $800. You have to decide, you want to go sustainable, are you willing to pay the extra $300 because we're using recycled paper? Then client will think, never mind, 500. So we got no choice. Yeah. And then sometimes we will tell them, okay, no need to bring 100,000 flyers. So for exhibition, no need to bring 50,000 first. Then they'll say, what's the price difference? So the price difference is very little only. Then you're like, print 100,000 is $800. Print 500 is, let's say, $600. So it's a $200 difference, right? They're like, never mind, print 100,000, it's okay. But they don't realize that if you don't give out during the event, it's gone. Because unless you print generic one, then okay, you can use it for the next time. But usually you don't. So unless we tell them, okay, do you know how many more exhibitions that you're taking part in? All right, if they know, then another way we advise them is, okay, you can print 100, okay, 100,000. Maybe you design your flyer in such a way that at the bottom could be a sticker paste on. So you print 100,000. Then if you know that you have another 3 events happening, right? Then then you print sticker, you paste over Then there's another option. So you can print the generic one. Then each time you just prepare 200,000. Then even if you didn't use all for the first run, your sticker can paste over it. So yes, you still have to print some extra sticker, but at least it can help you to be a bit more sustainable. So when the time comes, right, when if the Singapore government mandate that all company must submit their sustainability report, right, then company may be a bit more, they wake up a bit more and realize that they cannot do this, they have to practice sustainability.
Very fascinating, because it's really, like you say, it's really like hard, right? It's a hard balance. Like at one point you want to be economically sound, right? Like you say, you print 100,000 is cheaper than you print 500,000, right? 50,000, whatever. But at the same time, then you have all this paper. At the same time, you may not use them all, right? Or use LED, then your energy costs. But if you use a physical, then you have to tear it down and then you throw it somewhere. Somewhere, right? Or if you can recycle, but usually people would just, throw it away, right? So I guess, there's a really tough balance when it comes to sustainability.
So we can only reduce We can only put in the effort to reduce the wastage.
So Annie, what a fascinating conversation we had today. Starting from talking about your business and how you started, and actually I would say you have a pretty seamless entry into business, given the fact that you just had this business ready for you when you were ready to start it. It was just like, do you want to start it? Okay, then you have the business, right? And over the years, you have organized events to the point that now you have become an educator rather than the person who manages and organizes and helps people organize the events. So given your 30 years of experience in this entire industry, what is that final takeaway? What do you want them to remember?
My first take for them is that if you are running the event for the client, all right, or whether you are the marketing person who's responsible for delivering an event, I think the most important thing to remember is your audience is always your main focus, all right? Because you're running an event for them, right? For the person who's coming, spending like 3 hours with you or 2 days with you, they should be your main focus, right? It should never be just focusing on yourself, that you want to be seen as like a super event person. No, it's always about your audience. When it comes to budget, technically any form of budget you can run an event is whether how fanciful you can get.
Okay, so two things, right? So audience is your main focus, and depending on how you want your event to be, any budget will be able to make it, except that what you will be able to do, whether you want to be very fancy or you want to be very basic, and how you want it to be perceived as, I guess, at the end, an event is that perception, right?
Correct. It's like, for example, if you have very limited budget, then you have to do it at places that you can get it for free. All right. Then you reach out to people who can help you, that can, like maybe the MC can be somebody internal, right? So you don't have to pay. All right. And food-wise, you can go with something simple. You don't have to give them like fancy food. But then if that's the case, then you're going to make sure that the content that you're going to deliver to them is of value. I mean, if you have very limited budget, if you have fanciful budget, you can do fanciful light show, sound show, multimedia show, then great. Then you can play with that to impress the audience, right? If not, then you just have to work with the content that people want to get.
Great advice and great tips, especially for anyone. And I guess these days, a lot of people need to put together events. So it's not just event planners and all that. Even, like you say, internal people need to do something, right? Even organize a CEO lunch is also an event. So great tips. So finally, Annie, where can people find you online?
They can look for me on my LinkedIn, or I can just Google for Annie Chan. They can find me on LinkedIn. Professionally, I'm usually more active on LinkedIn than the other social media.
Okay, great. And I will also put Annie's links to her LinkedIn and all the other her websites and all that in the show notes, so that if anyone who's listening to this and they say, oh, I want to connect with her, just go to the show notes on womenpreneur.asia.com and you click and you will be directed to Annie Chan's LinkedIn. So thank you once more, Annie. I'm glad we managed to make this happen.
Yes, thank you so much for your time once again. To those listening, hope you pick up the necessary tips that I share, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn as well.
So thank you, Annie. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
I hope you enjoyed today's frank and engaging episode with Annie Chan of Singapore. One of the things that stuck with me were Annie's words. We were running the show and we forgot to run the business. That itself is a reality check for most entrepreneurs. At times we can get lost in the day-to-day operations and forget that there is a business to be run. If you're new to this podcast, do subscribe so that you can get the latest episodes. If you're a returning listener, please rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcast app. It goes a long way in helping others find our show. Next time on Womenpreneur Asia, I will be speaking to Dr. Vimi Ramasamy, who is the CEO of Strawik based in Malaysia. Vimi and I discuss some common myths about ESG, and she will explain that ESG is not just for multinational companies, and it isn't expensive to implement. She dives into what ESG really means, its impact on marketing and supply chains, and how every business, no matter the size, can embrace these principles of ESG. Whether you're a business owner, an ESG enthusiast, or simply looking to make sense of ESG and sustainability, next week's episode is packed with insights and practical takeaways. Thanks for listening, and I will see you next week.